Part 2 of the space lecture. On page 3 of your handout, you see at the top an image that's Raphael's School of Athens, which is a fresco in the Vatican just outside of the Sistine Chapel. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take a straight edge of some sort, like maybe, I don't know, a 3x5 card that you might still have, and use the edge of the 3x5 card to find the orthogonals in the piece and see where the orthogonals go to, and see if you can find the vanishing point for and the horizon line for this painting by Raphael, the School of Athens. Now, mentioned a couple other different perspectives other than, divergent, intuitive, and linear. And the first one is atmospheric perspective, and the other one is overlapping perspective. Both of these things help us determine space in nature and also communicate space in art. Atmospheric perspective. Basically, the farther away things go from you, there's more air in between you and the thing that you're seeing. And because of that, the particles in the air cause the light to become diffused. And so things in the background actually appear lighter than things that are in the foreground. The example on your screen is a good example of atmospheric perspective. This is a photograph and how we perceive things in real life. This, again, is a painting by the artist Raphael called Madonna of the Meadow, and you can see how he uses atmospheric perspective in order to give the illusion of space in this particular painting. Here's a very famous painting by Albert Bierstadt, Rocky Mountains Landers Peak, and he uses atmospheric perspective also in order to give the sense of deep space in his painting. Another very common perspective that we use all the time is overlapping perspective. We might not think of it as being a perspective technique, but it really is, which basically says that things that are blocking out other things are in front of those things. I know that sounds really stupid, but actually that's the way that we perceive the world. So here we have bottles, and the orange and the green bottle are in front of the blue and the red bottle, and we can see that because they are overlapping those bottles. Here we have a pile of oranges, and I can tell you that this orange is in front of this orange right here, and this orange is in front of this orange right here, which is in front of this orange right here. And it's also in front of this orange right here. How do I know that? Why? Because it's overlapping. That's how we know that. So again, something that is very simple, but is something that actually helps us recognize things in space and where they occupy that space, but also helps us communicate those things in space as well. So here we're going back to our Paleolithic cave, and we have overlapping working here. So here we have this rhinoceros, which is in front of these rhinocerositis, these rhinos over here, right? But every one of these rhinos is in front of the rhino behind it. So it's using overlapping to depict space, but it's also using intuitive perspective, because the farther away something is, the higher that it goes. Pretty sophisticated for someone who is painting thousands upon thousands of years ago. Now, here's overlapping perspective in the early medieval period, and it looks like Emperor Justinian is actually stepping on the toes of people right here, and then everybody else is stepping on everybody else's toes. But this was just a way that they could show that something was in front of something else, but just by overlapping. Notice that all the heads are about the same height, right? Which if this person was in front of another person, then it would be hard to actually have that happen. But here we have an example of overlapping, but not done in a particularly effective way. Now, vertical perspective refers to perspective in Eastern cultures, especially like China, Korea, Japan, things like that. So a landscape, like a Chinese landscape or Japanese landscape, has 3 different planes. And even though they don't have the deep depth of Western art, they're not meant to be, actual depictions of real space. They're meant to be symbolic depictions of space. So in the very, very top section, you have heaven, which is always the highest part, the spiritual realm. The foreground is the earth, or the temporal realm right here. And the middle ground oftentimes acts as a distance point, or the space in between that is hard to traverse to get from one to the next. So this is a piece called Wooded Mountains at Dusk by the artist and poet Kun Kan from 1666 AD. Now this isn't just an image, it's also a poem, and the poem exists up here. And so here you have your foreground here. This is where people live in the world. You can see like houses of a village right here. Now this section right here would be the heavens section. And this place right here becomes that middle section as well. Here's a photo. This photo is of Zhangjiajie, China, by Lydia Goethe. And you can see, first of all, the atmospheric perspective, but then also you have this sense of the vertical perspective that you commonly see in Asian artwork. Some of you might recognize this, this being a very popular game, Assassin's Creed. This one took place in China. I always thought the artwork in this one was very, very beautiful, so I thought I would share this one with you. Now, a final perspective we're going to talk about is anamorphic perspective. Now, anamorphic perspective is something that has to be seen from a very, very specific angle in order for it to be recognizable. And it's purposefully meant to not look like what it's supposed to look like from regular viewing angles. You have to look at it from a very specific angle. Now, what does this look like? Looks like maybe someone shooting a bunch of bullets at you. But when you look at it from the right angle or the right perspective, this is what it turns into. This is actually this. It only looks like this when you are looking at it from a single viewing point. This is an image of a French postman, and this was assembled in a particular museum, and I will show this to you.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Puis-je demander mon déplacement?
Oui, oui. On profite du bassin et puis comme ça, on passe de l'autre.
Ah,
Non.
d'accord. Ik kan vast moeten worden dit apparaat.
That is anamorphic perspective. One of the most famous anamorphic perspectives in Western art comes from Hans Holbein's The Ambassadors. Hans Holbein was the court painter to Henry VIII. It's a little unfortunate because he sort of died and left his family penniless in Germany, not Henry VIII, but Hans Holbein. But this is a very, very famous portrait. It is in the National Gallery in London. I've been there, I've seen it, it's pretty amazing. And it has this weird streak right here in the painting, which is actually an anamorphic image. You have to look at a particular angle in order to see what the image is supposed to be. So if you go into the not the British Museum, but the National Gallery in London, you can go up and you can lean over like this and you can actually see what it's supposed to look like. And that is what you would see from that angle. And as you can tell, it is a skull. Now the skull is a representation of what's known as a memento mori, MEMENTO-MORI, which basically is a reminder that you are going to die and that all these wonderful things that these people have, like fine clothes and all of their knowledge and all of their wisdom and all of their wealth, isn't going to matter because at one day they're going to die. And so you're supposed to live with the knowledge that this is all temporary in this life. So that's what a memento mori is. And again, this is one of the most famous ones that there is by Hans Holbein. So, another aspect of space is actual physical three-dimensional space. And three-dimensional space is the space that we live in on a daily basis. Right now, you are living in the three-dimensional space of your house, and you're probably getting sick of it. I'm starting to get a little sick of it as well, seeing the same walls every day. But space is what we live in, and spaces are also those things that we construct for various purposes. So 3D space refers to the physical environment and how it functions in its particular context. Right now I am doing this lecture from my bedroom. My bedroom usually functions as a place where I go to sleep. But with 3 other people living in the house, the bedroom also functions as a quiet place where I can record lectures for my classes. And so this space is now changed into some place that is quiet that I can use in order to hopefully help you guys out in learning the stuff that I want you to learn. So here we have a three-dimensional space, and I want you to think about how this space is actually functioning for this particular sculpture. I mean, what does it actually do? Well, if you're going to go into the Accademia in Florence, Italy, this place is very, very, very well designed. You start off with this niche at the end of a very long hallway, and so the entire viewing angle just draws you in. And what this does is this creates a space that is proportional to the massive colossal sculpture of David, which was sculpted by Michelangelo. Now you can see these small people right here. These are males, adult males, and so they're going to be around 5 feet 8 inches tall. And you can see that these adult males take up around 1/3 of the overall height. So this is considered to be colossal scale. And scale always refers to how something relates in size to a human being. So this is considered colossal scale because it's about 3 times the size of a human being. Right there. So the space's physical environment, how does it function in this particular place? I would argue that it functions as a way to really accentuate and give an excellent viewing of the sculpture of Michelangelo's David. Now I'm going to ask a couple things. Do you notice anything odd about any of the physical traits of the David? And just keep those in mind, what you might find is odd. And think about maybe why Michelangelo chooses to make things different than what they should possibly appear as in a true proportional scale to a human body. Anyway, that's all that we have for space. And I hope that you're having a pleasant time at home during this beautiful weather. And I miss you all, and I will see you all later, I hope. And that's it.